Welcome all, welcome back to the Millie Roundtable with the NFL. Here I am joined by Snyder tonight. We got a great chance for a little college football. You had a better day than me in college football, but obviously we have the real action tomorrow. The professionals, not the NIL professionals, no, the ones that get paid for football, not on likeness or whatever. Snyder, how are you doing today?
Yeah, I'm doing well, man. Coming off a pretty good college slate. Got some good mojo heading into the NFL. Interesting slate we got here with some of the totals here. We've got the one game that everybody's going to kind of gravitate to, but we've got, I think, three other games over 45-point total that I think we can kind of look at for some exposure. Maybe some of those games can shoot out and do what like last week, the Kansas City and Jacksonville game was the game everybody's looking at, and that game busted. That was the only game. I think the overs went 12-1 last week, and that was the only game that didn't go over the total, so that was wild. But, yeah, looking forward to this. We got a little more data heading into week 3 here, so excited to jump on here with you and break it down.
Yeah, 100%. I mean, this is definitely a slate that I'm kind of excited for. I think there's a little bit of better trends that we have seen, obviously, and that's one of the best parts about Run Pure Sports is that we got all these new tools that are out there, and you don't even need a promo code to enjoy them, right? You can just go ahead and sign up right now. We get the positional matchups sheet that goes up. It's now got 2023 data input with it. And it tells you basically what teams are struggling the most against wide receivers, running backs, tight ends, defenses. And that's just one of the features on Run Pure Sports. But you can really see a trend here early. Not that, we're going to follow it biblically. It's only been 2 weeks, small sample size. But the Chargers are the worst team against quarterbacks and wide receivers. Makes sense after what Tyreek Hill did to them. And one of the best teams against wide receivers is actually Miami themselves. So it is surprising. If you guys want more info like that, we also have a bunch of free info, too, on the website. We can go ahead and dive into the games, though, Snyder. And you're exactly right. It was funny last week. We had all this excitement around the Jaguars and the Chiefs. And now we kind of get a similar excitement around one game. And we'll get to that one. Is it a 1 o'clock start? It is a 1 o'clock start. So I'm gonna go against my rule. I want to talk about this one first. It's the Minnesota Vikings versus the Los Angeles Chargers. I want to get the primo game out of the way because I find myself very hard to avoid this one. Snyder, are you the same way here?
Yeah, I think this is the spot that we need to look at least try and get a piece out of this game and about every team I want to build this week. We've got some interesting weather in some games here. Some games, we don't have that many high totals this week either. And this game is in a dome, 54 total. It's one of the higher totals we'll probably see of the year. So definitely think we need to definitely consider playing at least one piece or something from this team on most of my teams at least. Some ways you can get different. Josh Kelly is going to be the chalk cash guy. I think I'm going to fade him, and I think that's going to be my hard fade in tournaments. I really don't think he's good. I didn't play him in tournaments last week. Just looking through his game log in the last couple of years, he's never really spiked for any big amounts. I mean, he had a couple of games where he filled in for Eckler and such, but he's never really eclipsed 20 points I've seen over the last couple of years. So I think he's the guy first guy I'm gonna mark off for tournaments. I know he's got the good price tag, good matchup here, but I'm gonna be looking more at the Chargers passing game for sure from here. I love Justin Herbert. I love Kirk Cousins. Well, I love both those quarterbacks. I think they're both elite plays. Kirk Cousins is probably going to be the more popular guy. I think a lot of people are going to play Cousins in cash. So I'm going to go more Herbert, I think, in tournaments. Costs a little bit more, but that's fine. We can save the salary elsewhere. Madison is another guy that I just don't think he's that good either. I haven't played him yet this year. Hasn't hurt me yet. Looking through his game log, too, I mean, a couple years ago, he had a couple of spike games where he scored 30 and 26, but last year he really didn't do anything. And then this year, I mean, he's only had 19 carries total in 2 games. So I think I'm going to be off of both the running backs, actually, and just look to target the pass catchers in this game. I really like Justin Jefferson. Obviously, he's going to be probably the guy playing cash as my spend-up option. Very hard for me to see him not catching 8 to 10 plus balls here, 100 plus yards probably. I think he does get in the box this game. He hasn't found the end zone yet this year, but he's went over 150 yards in each game. So I think he finds the end zone this week. Definitely going to prioritize Justin Jefferson. And then I like Jordan Addison as well. He's probably going to be popular. I really like his upside and what he's bringing to the table. He's found the box in both games this year. I think KJ Osborne is going to come in a little lower owned. He's a good guy to mix in there as well. He's got a good price tag. He's seen 6 targets both games. He did find the end zone last week as well, so he's a kind of a lower owned guy from the Vikings I'll be looking at. And then Keenan Allen without Austin Eckler, we can expect more of the same. I don't know if we see him get in the end zone twice this week like we did last week, but I think you can comfortably project him for right around 18 to 22 points. I think that'd be a fair projection for him. And then Big Mike Williams, I think he's going to be a priority for me in both Draftkings and FanDuel this week. 13 targets last week. I think we see more of that from him. He's been running out in the slot more this year as well, so I really like Big Mike this week. He'll be someone that I make sure to get overweight on. Then when you're looking at the tight end position here, I think you can run some doubles here and run it back. You can full on onslaught this game too. I think Hawkinson is definitely in play. Gerald Everett and Donald Parham are from the Chargers side there. Mr. Parham didn't do much last week. He only caught 1 pass week 1. He had 3 catches for 21 yards and a touchdown. And then last week we saw Everett catch 3. Everett's probably going to be a little more safer. I think Parham's a great differentiator for these game stacks. So if you want to kind of get different, 2,700 really helps save the money here as well. And then Hawkinson, hard to say anything wrong about him. He's going to see probably 8 to 10 targets again this game with a really good chance of scoring.
Yeah, 100%. This is definitely the best game, so it's hard to get away from any piece. And when you look at last week, Chargers faced the pass funnel, obviously going against the Titans. 26 of those targets went to Keenan Allen and Mike Williams, I believe. I think it could be 23 or 26, but just a large amount of those targets just going to those 2 wide receivers. So you have clear stacking options, and I love Gerald Everett. Got a lot of him in best ball. I really like mixing him in too. And then Josh Palmer, also mixing him with 5 targets. So you have a very clear stacking tree with Herbert if you want to do double stacks or if you just want to stack one guy. Obviously, we saw what the Vikings did last week against the Eagles. They conceded every single run, felt like it was 7 or 8 yards for Swift. And it felt like Swift didn't get touched until he was 2 to 3 yards past the line of scrimmage. I am not a Joshua Kelly fan. I made it clear last week, as an advertisement plays in the background here. But I made it clear last week that I was not high on Josh Kelly because I thought he'd be splitting snaps. He did not end up splitting snaps. Did he fail? Yes, because the Titans are an absolute monster against running backs. And that is going to be something that we probably talk about later on with Jerome Ford. But I am not going to go away from Josh Kelly after seeing what Swift did to this this Vikings defense. I am just all over Josh Kelly, and it pains me because I drafted Isaiah Spiller all offseason. I talked up Isaiah Spiller in June, July, August, and then in September. And yet again, I am playing Josh Kelly here. He is one of my favorite plays on the slate. I think you covered it very brilliantly. We talked about the top of the show. The worst team against wide receivers is the Chargers. And Justin Jefferson is the best wide receiver in the league. And we just saw Kirk Cousins overcame his primetime woes. Now he's on a regular Sunday. Sign me up for this game. I think I'll have 2 to 3 pieces minimum in most of my teams, especially my main one. It's really hard to get away from this.
Before you get off here, I got one more thing to say.
Yeah, absolutely.
Are you done?
Yes. Yeah. Go ahead.
Okay. I got one guy here I think is going to be the million maker, possibly the diamond in the rough. The guy that he only played 9 snaps last week. Elijah Dodson played 9 snaps, but on those 9 snaps, he touched the ball 6 times in those 9 snaps. Had 4 carries and then 2 catches in the passing game. I think at 4,500, if you're looking to really get different in this game, I think throw him in the million maker or something. Maybe he's a guy that can somehow score 10 to 15 points somehow. I don't think it's really a good chance of it, but I think for the million maker, when you're looking for an outlier, I think he's a good guy to kind of differentiate yourself.
Yeah, believe me, when they kept Elijah Dotson on the active roster, my Isaiah Spiller shares really wept. It was clear they do prefer Dotson in that backfield over Spiller. Spiller's father was mad on Twitter. That was something I learned, that Isaiah Spiller's father was just as mad as me that Isaiah Spiller isn't playing enough here. Let's go ahead and move on from this one. Obviously, the best game. We led off with that one. Now I want to go to one where there's injury concern with Anthony Richardson. He is going to be out this week. We saw Gardner Minshew come in last week and play absolutely brilliant. And then all of a sudden, the Baltimore side of the ball, your Baltimore Ravens here, they beat the Cincinnati Bengals in Cincinnati, and they're rolling right now. I think that you have a lot to be bullish about with the Ravens, and you kind of get a backup quarterback here. I did see that one of our bets in the chat, posted by our very own Holden, had the Colts under team total 17.5. Are you on a similar boat here that you're not expecting much from the Colts offensively, and you might be looking to stack the Ravens a little bit?
Yeah, I think this game's interesting. This is one of those spots where it's likely to see some rain showers here. I think it's right around a 60% chance of rain pretty much all game. I don't think it's going to be heavy rain or anything. The wind's not going to be blowing, so I won't really put too much into consideration with the rain or the light rain or whatever's there. Just something to consider there. But I do think this Ravens team, I think they've got to be close to popping here with that new system they got in there, Todd Monken and such. I really like Nelson Aguilar as a million maker dart throw here. 3.2K. Odell's going to miss the game. He had 6 targets, caught 5 of them for 63 yards and a touchdown last week. 17 points for 3.2K. If he can duplicate that this week, I think that will really separate yourself. He's one of those cheapies we're looking forward to stack up the game we just talked about as well. And then always looking at Zay Flowers. I think they're going to continue to try and get the ball in his hands any way possible, both on the ground and through the air. He's another guy I think he's got 20-point upside in this matchup. And then looking at, I don't think I can get to Gardner at 5.1K, but maybe in the million maker if you want to throw a team with Gardner Minshew in there and pair him up with Michael Pittman, I guess, 6,200. It's kind of up there in price, but it isn't terrible. Kylan Granson at tight end you can look at there. He's had 4 targets and 6 targets in the 2 games he's played this year. Last week he scored 10 points. He got in the end zone. I think he's a guy that can score 7 to 12 points or something at 3.1K. How dusty tight ends look, and he's a fine option. And then Mark Andrews. I think Mark Andrews completely gets overlooked this week. I think we see him come in somewhere around 5% or less. I think he's the GPP guy we got to look at this week because I think everybody's going to go punt like with Smythe or one of those guys cheap down there, or they're going to go straight up to Kelsey or Hawkinson. And then that kind of pinches Andrews, who has one of the cheapest price tags we've seen in a while. Last year, I know he was right in that upper 6Ks and 7K range I'm looking at for last year. I think this is a great price tag, a potential spot where we could see the Ravens score 4 or 5 touchdowns in the game.
Yeah, it's a good point. And yeah, 6K is soft for Mark Andrews. Obviously, he looked very good last week against the Bengals, getting into the box as well. So yeah, it's an interesting one because Gardner Minshew came in and it felt like the supporting pieces got a little bit better for fantasy. A little bit. Zach Moss obviously had a big day. Zach Moss ruled that backfield entirely in Indianapolis, which he got priced up to 5.5K now. But you also have to mention 4 catches out of that backfield too. So definitely not it's not a great spot. I don't like playing anyone in Baltimore, against that defense. It's usually a consistent defense, especially against running backs. But definitely worthy to note. Gus Edwards could be the guy who falls into the box twice, right? You could easily see it. And, there's a lot of paths that this game can go. But Odell News obviously being the biggest, you kind of go different, instead of thinking that, Rashad Bateman, who I have almost given up all hope on having a successful NFL career at this point. But like Nelson Aguilar, I really like that call 3.2K because 6 targets for cheap. We talked about Palmer at 3.3K. We have, we call them 3K shitters in the college football land, but we have some 3K shitters here with 3.2K Aguilar, 3.3K Joshua Palmer. Yeah, so it's nice. I do like the fact that, we can get a little bit mixed up in there. And I also think that Gardner Minshew, 23 targets in 2 games, he gets a big bump with Gardner Minshew. Pittman gets a big boost with Gardner Minshew in. And that is definitely something that I kind of might have a little bit more interest on that side of the ball. I didn't have coming into this game originally. And I do want to mention Sterling Thesis. The F1 playbook is almost done. It has to be paused for this show, but we have a 1 a.m. race tonight in Japan. A 1 a.m. race in the Eastern time zone of the United States. So if you're on the West Coast, crack open a beer at 11 o'clock and you get to watch some racing, 10 o'clock even. I don't know my time zones that well. But yeah, it's almost done, Sterling. And shout out Malcolm. Yeah, Ronnie Bell for life. Helped me win on FanDuel. Snyder, I saw that you were a part of that train on FanDuel, just 42nd, I think. I was at the same lineup. I saw you up in first there for a while with me. Ronnie Bell's a hero. But Deebo Samuel's touchdown catch at least split up the chop a little bit. So it wasn't the most terrible thing in the world because CMC was leading it for a long time until that touchdown catch in that end zone. Let's go ahead and move on to Titans and the Browns. Obviously, Nick Chubb's knee went the wrong way, but good news. He is only out 6 to 8 months, they're projecting, and it's not a career-ending injury. It's just a torn MCL. Which, that's good to see. I was very worried that we probably wouldn't get to see him play football again. So it looks like we'll have him back for next season. And his backup, University of Cincinnati guy, formerly attended Alabama, I should say, too, before going to UC, stepped in and filled in that role nicely. But what have we learned about chalk running backs against the Titans, Snyder? It didn't work out in week 1. It didn't work out in week 2. Do I expect it to work in week 3, Snyder? Let me know.
I don't think so. I don't even think I'm going to go to Ford and cash games or anything. I think he's going to be a clear mark off for me this week. Not going to go there. Not going to. I mean, the price tag is great. Could he fall into the box and get 12 to 15 points possibly? I mean, he filled in great last week, but that was against the Steelers defense. And I don't think he's going to have that much success against this the toughest front seven in football. I think here in the Titans defense, he got a 38.5 total here. I think this is going to be kind of a slower game. I do like a couple pieces from this game though. I think I'm going to be off of the quarterbacks, but I do like Amari Cooper at 5.7K. I think he's got a tasty price tag there. He's the guy that Watson looked at quite often when he came back into the game. When he came back into the NFL last year. 10 targets last game, 7 catches, 90 yards, 7 targets the game before. I think we see Cooper. I don't think they're going to be able to run the ball at all, so I think they're going to be throwing the ball pretty much 80% of the time almost. So I think Cooper's going to see some looks here. Elijah Moore is another guy you could look at for sure. 9 targets last week, just did not do anything with him. He's had 16 targets this year. He's only caught 6 of them, though, so that's kind of a little worrisome. I do lean Cooper over Moore. And then I think you could look at possibly Njoku or Chig if you want for a tight end there. I don't know if I'll go there, though, but I think it's mainly Cooper for me in this game as my preferred option.
Yeah, I mean, you look at it. Last week, we obviously saw the Chargers just attack this secondary, missing some pieces, really good against running backs. This week, can I trust Deshaun Watson? Obviously, I can't, and I'm massage room, but can I trust him on the field? Maybe. I don't know. He's got talent. Obviously, in week 1, he played well, but you saw the inconsistencies in the Monday Night Football game where you just saw some missed throws and stuff. But if there's a matchup where you have to play well, it's this one. And I think Elijah Moore, I was really high on him coming into the game when Cooper was projected to be out and obviously got rolled in. But Moore still got 9 targets, and he was open on some of those. Some of those were drops. It wasn't a great game from either guy, but I think that's a stack that I'll probably have a little bit in the arsenal. I do want to attack this Titans secondary. That is definitely something that I'll probably keep, in the holster a little bit. Elijah Moore, he's due for a big game, and I think that we're going to see a 20 spot, 4.7K from him. Could be an early candidate for play of the day, but I don't want to give a play of the day that I don't have more than 20% on. Let's go ahead and talk about the Tennessee side too. DeAndre Hopkins expected to play. It's just not the greatest offense to target in the world. I mean, even Chig Okonkwo, not really someone that I'm going to give much love to at 3.2K. Even though he played well, just 4 targets. It's kind of an offense that you just want to say wait and see, and especially in Cleveland, a place where Cleveland just dominated the Bengals in week 1. Didn't even play that badly last week. I mean, I think Deshaun Watson's pick 6 and stuff like that kind of lost some more of the game than the defense did. Yeah, there's no point. We have a large slate. We can go ahead and move on to the next game, which is a doozy. It's actually, you know what? This one's not the worst. I see Atlanta. I get turned off a little bit. Then I see Detroit. It's a dome game. It's got Bijan Robinson, maybe one of the best running backs in football already, despite only being in his 3rd game. And we saw that the Lions did incredibly well last week, too, with Jared Goff. And Amon-Ra St. Brown looks like he's going to play as well. Talk to me about this one, Snyder.
Yeah, we're still seeing a little bit of a snap share here between Bijan Robinson and Tyler Algier here. Algier played more snaps last week than did week 1, 36 snaps, had 16 carries. No work in the passing game there. I don't think I'm going to go there, but I do like Robinson this week. I think he's a guy that can I think he's got the upside to absolutely nuke here in this game. His workload went up last week. His snap share went up. His snap share almost doubled last week, up to 59 to 82 snaps. He's been seeing good work in the passing game. He had over 100 yards rushing last week, 6.5 yards per carry. I think Robinson's going to nuke here this game, so I really like Robinson for tournaments. I don't think he's going to see too much ownership this week. And then I'm going to go back to Jahmyr Gibbs in tournaments. He'll be in the GVP pool for me. His snaps went up a little bit last week from 19 to 32, so hopefully he can take another step forward, maybe play 50 snaps or something this week. They're using him a lot in the passing game, which I really like to see. Only had 7 carries again, similar to week 1, but he saw 9 targets in the passing game, caught 7 of them. I think he's got some good upside for tournaments, so I'll be looking there. And then on the passing side of the ball, I mean, you can always throw Drake London in there. I love his upside. I don't think I'm going to go to St. Brown. I'd rather go to other guys at that price range in the receiver position. But Josh Reynolds is a guy I'll be looking at for sure. I think he's got a great price tag still, 4.2K. Seeing good usage. He did catch 2 touchdowns last week, but he's got 9 receptions on the year. Looking at the tight end position, I will not play Kyle Pitts. I haven't played him ever, and I continue to stay on that until he proves it to me. But Sam Laporta at 4K, I think he's another guy you can add in there. I mean, consistently seeing targets. I think they're going to keep using him until Jameson Williams comes back. Then his production could take a little decrease there. But 5 catches in both games, 4K, sign me up.
Yeah, no, 100%. And it's a good point that you brought up on Bijan Robinson. It's not like, week 1, it was like, damn, we're missing out. He's not getting enough work or whatever. And then last game was like, okay, he's getting enough work now. We know it coming in. We just saw Kenneth Walker get into the box, what was it, twice against the Lions last week. We saw the Seahawks offense, just in general, absolutely demolish the Lions. We even saw the Chiefs, if Tony could catch a ball, if Sky Moore could catch a ball, they probably would have done well against this Lions defense. And I think this is a game, you're exactly right. Jahmyr Gibbs, someone that I'm also looking at too. If we do see that the snap count goes up in any factor at all, like let's say he gets, with David Montgomery banged up, right? Is Montgomery, he's out. He's doubtful, right? This could definitely be a Jahmyr Gibbs spot. Not that they're going to overuse him. I could definitely see Craig Reynolds being the guy who gets the call up, gets a lot of the first and second down work. But if there was a natural progression to Jahmyr Gibbs getting about 55% of the work, it would probably be this week. Both the rookie running back stacks. That's actually in my only fantasy season long team. I have Jahmyr Gibbs and Bijan Robinson stacked up. So maybe I'll do that in a couple lineups. I do want to mention that just based on our positional matchup sheet that you can find at runpuresports.com, Atlanta is struggling just a little bit against the tight end position compared to what they have done across the board. Sam Laporta, I really liked him in Iowa. I think he had a good few games coming in. I think he looked great the first game, looked solid the second game. I think he's going to be a tight end that I look at, even though he's like above that mark where a lot of people are going to settle in the low 3Ks. I think Laporta might go a little overlooked in tournaments at 4K. And it's a great game environment. Dome setting. We can get the Lions up. I think that's the key to this game going off. Lions have to score first. Get up 14, right? Force the Falcons to play fast. Force the Falcons to basically use, Desmond Ritter's arm. That can always be beneficial for both sides. Make sure the pace of this game goes up. A lot of plays could happen in it. I think the path of this one becoming a very intriguing game stack is definitely there. Anything else you want to add?
No, I think we covered that pretty good right there with you.
Perfect. We'll go ahead and move on to the New Orleans Saints and the Green Bay Packers. So the Packers have a small laundry list of injuries. So Aaron Jones' status seems to be truly up in the air. I haven't seen anything yet. I haven't checked Schefter's Twitter in about, 35 minutes or so. So maybe I'm missing the news on Aaron Jones, but if he's out, if he's in or out, you can talk about both sides of it. What are you going to do with that? I think if he's in, stay away. But if he's out, you go back to A.J. Dillon. Then Christian Watson as well. Let's see his status. He was rested on Thursday. They said it was planned. He seems to be a true 50-50 guy up in the air. I don't know what to do with this team. And then obviously on the Saints side of the ball, Jamal Williams his hamstring's gone. Like, you know, he got placed on the IR, didn't he?
Yeah, I think so.
He got placed in the IR. So you have Kendra Miller, who's expected to be the top back, unless it's Tony Jones, Tony Jones, 2 touchdowns, 3 yards of carry. Sure, getting into the end zone does diminish your yards per run, but I don't see how Kendra Miller isn't the guy who gets a lot of work, especially in the passing game, Snyder. So it's an intriguing game here. What do you do with Jones in, and what are you doing with the Saints running back situation as well?
I don't think I'm going to do much with this game. I don't think I'm going to play any of the running backs here. Definitely not playing A.J. Dillon. That dude looks like he's running cement. Tony Jones, I don't have much. I don't think he's that good personally. I probably won't go there. Looking at the receivers here, I mean, you could always play Rashid Shaheed. I think he's got some pretty good upside for the price. And then Michael Thomas actually looks pretty good this year, 5.3K. I think he's fine if you want to go there. I mean, he's getting all the targets, just hasn't really done much with them. 11 points and 12 points in the 2 games, but he's caught 12 balls over the 2 games. You could throw him in there if you want. He's a guy I'd put in the GPP pool. I probably won't go to Chris Olave at 7K. I just like some other guys priced up a little bit better than him, but he's got some good upside though. If you want to, he'll come in really low owned if you want to go there. I don't really see myself going. I played Jaden Reed last week in cash and some single entries. Possibly could go back to him. I think last week was kind of an outlier game, catching those 2 touchdowns, 4 catches for 37 yards. I don't think we see that again, but I think he's fine to put in there at 3.8K. He'll be in the pool. And then looking at the tight ends, I think we'll see Luke Musgrave as a popular option, especially like on Yahoo. I think he's minimum price over there still. I think he's cheap on FanDuel as well still. I really don't like too much in this game though. Maybe I'll look at one of these defenses or something, but the weather isn't that bad here either. I think there's only like a real slight chance of rain here, only 10 to 15 miles an hour of wind, so really nothing to factor in that ways. But I think this is just kind of a cross-off game for me though, more or less. But maybe I'll have some sprinkles of these guys in the MME pool.
Yeah, I think the pricing of it all, like if you're saying that Kendra Miller could be the guy, right? Could be the guy who gets a lot of the carries for New Orleans Saints. Like, hey, Kendra Miller gets the bulk of the carry, 4.3K going against a defense that isn't particularly elite, I should say. I'm going to be buying into that. I don't think I'm going to be buying into the A.J. Dillon train at 5.7K after last week's disappointments and stuff. I don't want to go there. And I think you're right. The wide receivers, these are both. If Christian Watson's back, especially for the Packers, it kind of clutters that room up.
Yeah.
Jaden Reed obviously did a very good job, basically, filling in that void. And he had an incredible game last week. And then you have Luke Musgrave there too. But then you have 4 bodies. Then you have Jones being back. Packers seem very gross right now. And maybe that's the thinking where, oh man, no one's going to touch them. But yeah, I really don't want to touch this offense if those guys are in. I just think that their pricing reflects those guys being out. And if they're in, everyone gets hurt. And who knows? Jones and Watson probably wouldn't even have a large load. The Saints-wise, with you. Glad you shouted out Shaheed. Dude's a huge play threat. Like a big play guy, right? If you get 2 catches, 120 yards, 2 touchdowns, Shaheed. I mean, his ADOT is just incredibly downfield. He was like this last season. Obviously, there's 3 more bodies, 2 more bodies there with Olave and Thomas. But yeah, with a running back situation that isn't stellar, maybe they're forced to throw a little bit more. But you're right, not a great game. We can move on, digress. Let's move on to Houston Texans versus the Jacksonville Jaguars. The Jaguars are my survivor pick this week, and this Houston team couldn't defend Gardner Minshew or Anthony Richardson last week. They couldn't defend anyone in week 1 as well when they gave up, 25 to Baltimore, and it could have been much more. Are you stacking up the Jaguars at all here, especially if Zay Jones is out? I mean, I got to mention that. That boosts up Christian Kirk and Calvin Ridley, even Evan Ingram as well. This could be intriguing.
Yeah, I actually really like this game for tournaments. I'm going to be stacking this game up from both sides. I think I may even play some CJ Stroud this week as well for the cheap price tag he brings in there. Trevor Lawrence for sure. I'll stack him up a few different ways. Really like Calvin Ridley to bounce back here against this Houston secondary. I think Calvin Ridley could just have another field day like we saw in week 1, and he was close last week. I mean, he had a couple shots at a few touchdowns, just were outside of his grasp there. But I mean, he comes down with those, we're looking at another 25-plus point game from him. I think Ridley has another one of those games like we saw week 1 where he had 27 points. I think he could even eclipse that this week. So definitely high on Calvin Ridley this week. I don't think his ownership's going to get too out of hand either. Maybe around 15%, which is fine there. I think Lawrence will be, around 10%, maybe even a little less. Generally, we see QB ownership kind of spread out. So I really like Calvin Ridley. And then I'll go to Christian Kirk too. I think he stays on the field quite a bit. I think Kirk is definitely going to be higher owned than Ridley. But if you play him in a double or something, he's fine. He had 14 targets last week. So I think if Zay Jones is out, then he's the guy that really benefits from that. And you can even, in like Lawrence doubles, I have no issue going to Evan Ingram at 4,800 as well. I think he's a guy that could really benefit too. Last week he scored 11 points, 9.9 points the first week. So pretty consistent there for the price tag. And then CJ Stroud I'll be going to a little bit in like large fields and stuff. 5,300 really allows you to do a lot there. And I think Tank Dell and then Nico Collins will be my top 2 targets there. Tank Dell, he's kind of a smaller dude, but we saw him play in college. We know what he can do. I mean, that dude's a baller. I mean, I think we can see him post a similar stat line than he did last week. 10 targets, 7 catches, 72 yards and a touchdown. And then Nico Collins had a big game. Both games were pretty big there. 20 total targets on the year, 13 catches. He's over 200 yards total on the season in the 2 games. So definitely like this game from both aspects, stacking this game up. Lawrence doubles, maybe even some Stroud doubles. I think this game goes over the total. I know it's got a lower posted total. I think we see some points here.
Yeah, and last week it felt like, oh man, I don't need to use all the salary, right? It felt like that to me at least, right? Like, oh man, I don't really need to go down to Tank Dell. This week, I'm looking at him like, wow, I could definitely go down to Tank Dell at 3.6 here. And obviously, he played his ball in Houston. He had a subpar quarterback in Clayton Tune. I was a huge Clayton Tune fan, to be honest, in college. Hopefully he has a good career in the NFL. But, it's just a lot of these guys, Tank Dell he played through anything. He was a huge touchdown guy, too, in college. Not that means everything or anything like that. But balls out in his second game in the NFL. I'll definitely buy stock into that. Definitely like Nico Collins. Our guy Bobby Hare was screaming it last week too. Nico Collins is a guy he was kind of on too. It's interesting. We have a game here that Stroud's playing really well. And I think that you saw it in the national championship game last year a little bit too, where Stroud kind of broke out of that shell. And I'm going to blame Ryan Day for refusing to let us see the best of CJ Stroud in college, because he looks like a much better professional than he did a college player. And these aren't wide receivers that jump off the page, right? These Nico Collins, Tank Dell, and hell, he had Noah Brown in there a little bit, and he's still finding success. That bodes well. I think in a chase script like this could be really good. And obviously, Christian Kirk's going to be a very popular option with Zay Jones out at 14 targets last week. No fluke, right? He was very good last week. If you compare it to last season, I should say, he's underpriced, right? Obviously, Ridley's there, but you have 3 clear guys who are going to get targets. It's Ingram, Kirk, and Ridley. You have ETN, who's going to get a lot of work too. They didn't trust Tank Bigsby at all. So you have a lot going in this game that I normally, don't love these type of games coming in. Big favorite, home team. But if Houston really tries to, take this game to the next level, like really tries to catch up, keep up, instead of just running the ball, 1,500 times like, Atlanta does with Desmond Ridder, or you saw it with Bryce Young. They just kept, they kind of did let it loose a little bit in the second half in that Monday night game. But this one could have a lot of points in it. So I definitely like what you're coming from. And Trevor Lawrence, under 7K. CJ Stroud, 5.3K, still in the basement, so still cheap. Yeah, I like it a lot, Snyder. Anything else you want to add before we move on to Denver and Miami?
No, I guess I didn't hit on the running backs here for Jacksonville. But yeah, Tank Bigsby, basically his usage went from a little bit from week 1 to 0 last week. So that bodes well for Travis Etienne at 6,900. I think he's a guy that I'll be considering in all contests, maybe even cash possibly.
Yeah, 100%. And it's going to be an interesting one, because I didn't love ETN coming into the year. But if Tank Bigsby is not getting work behind Dearness Johnson or whatever, or Dearness Johnson, the former Cleveland Brown, ETN's going to be in line for a large role. Let's move on to Denver and Miami. Miami, obviously, Jalen Waddle is out. That's the biggest news that we have to address. Tyreek Hill, 9K. And then all of a sudden you dip down the list, right? You don't see it until River Craycraft and Braxton Berrios, the guys who are likely going to step up in that role. I think it'd be Craycraft in that role and Berrios more. And maybe they're all interchangeable in that Miami offense, something that I probably should look a little bit more into after the show. But Craycraft and Berrios both had decent. I know decent is relative to a degree. Decent starts to the season, right? Craycraft obviously had a couple touchdowns last season at the beginning of the year. But these guys are getting a lot of snaps. 7 targets for Craycraft in 2 games. Berrios, same way, I think. Yeah, 8 targets. They're not fools. I mean, 3.6K, 3.4K. Miami's value at wide receiver could be the move, unless you think that maybe they go with like Robbie Chosen, formerly Robbie Anderson. Do they play him on the outside? I doubt it, right? I think it'll be those 3 guys with Durham Smythe. And then you can also talk about the Denver side of the ball. But talk to me about what your plan is with Miami here.
Yeah, I think we could see a little back and forth here. This has one of the higher totals on the board, other than the Chargers and Vikings, but 47.5 total here. Miami's favored by 6. I think we do see a little back and forth. Interested to see where Tyreek's ownership kind of gravitates to tomorrow morning with the Waddle news there. I think we see Tyreek probably 20 to 25% owned, a 9K price tag. It's going to be Hill or Jefferson for a lot of people. And I think he's fine there if you want to go there. I do like Craycraft, or like you were saying, at 3.4K, the cheap price tag there. He's been seeing some decent usage. He caught a touchdown in week 1, 3 catches for 40 yards in week 1. I think we could see something similar here. And I think the Broncos have enough to kind of push back at him too. Here, I liked what Jerry Jeudy did last week. I think he's a guy you could look to. Cortland Sutton's always there as well. I'm waiting for Javonte. I'm a big Javonte guy from back in college. He's only seen about half the snaps right now, so I don't think I'll probably get to him here. But I'm just looking at him, watching him, waiting to kind of deploy him maybe later on in the year when they kind of ramp him up a little more. From the tight end position, I think we see Durham Smythe or Smuth, however you say that. I think he's going to be the chalk tight end that everybody spends down for, most notably in single entry tournament and single entry in cash. And I think his Millie Maker ownership will still be up there in 15 to 20% range. So he's fine if you want to add him into some doubles and stuff. I would use him in game stacks and stuff, though.
Yeah, so I'm curious on Durham Smythe, right? The Miami tight end position wasn't utilized a ton last year at all, right? That was even with a guy like Gesicki in there too. And obviously Waddle out's a huge deal. Basically, like he can get upwards of 33% of the targets on a good day, right? I'm struggling to see the connections where Waddle being out means Smythe is guaranteed to get more work. And he's probably someone that in the Millie Maker I'll be underweight on, because I don't know if the risk or if the ownership is worth the reward in the end all be all, right? I'd rather spend up at tight end, or I'd rather go up to 4K with Sam Laporta, a guy who's a touchdown away from a 16 piece, rather than Durham Smythe, who, I'll be happy with 8, 9, sure, but he seems more like a cash play than anything, right? Yeah. And I don't hate that in cash. If you guys are playing cash, we have great cash content on the site. And we also go over it in the morning shows, runpuresports.com. You have literally everything you need. And it's not just football. It's basketball. It's golf. It's MLB. It's F1. It's NASCAR. We got you covered in the entire weekend. But yeah, I think for cash games, yeah, sure, Durham Smythe, throw him in there. And then outside of that, I mean, God, I'll be entertained by a 9K Hill. Denver collapsed very badly in the latter half of that game against Washington. That defense looked absolutely awful. I'm kind of bullish on this Miami offense just in general, because Mike McDaniel is one of the best in the business, one of the best coaches out there. I mean, sure, Denver's going to have all their focus on Tyreek Hill. Everyone has their focus on their best players. Tyreek Hill could easily put up 30 piece, and no one would be surprised. We got value wide receivers. How many people are going to be bold enough? Maybe this could be a stupid take. Maybe a lot of people do it. Are going to be bold enough to just put Hill and Jefferson as the first 2 guys in their lineup. You have 18K committed to the wide receiver position right there. I think we have enough value. I think personally, they should have priced up Joshua Kelly way more. And 5.4K means that I can, afford these guys and still get a very good, running back play. So yeah, I think Hill's going to be my top guy. I'm going to have a little bit of mixed in with Craycraft and Barrios. And then as far as the Denver side of the ball, I don't know if I love it. I think Judy, obviously being nursed back from the hamstring injury and stuff, 5 targets, more of a wait and see. But yeah, Miami defense, they gave up a lot on the ground to the Los Angeles Chargers, but I felt like a lot of that was schemed. And we are still in a split backfield in Denver right now. And even Jaleel McLaughlin stole the goal line inside the 10 carry and got a touchdown last week. So, yeah, I think just on my Miami side of the ball for me, and Tyreek Hill is going to get a mega projection, and so is Justin Jefferson. And I can't wait to see how often it hits. We also have the Los Angeles Chargers and Minnesota Vikings games, which we already talked about. I know that is next on the DK list. If you guys want to listen to that, we talked about it at the top of the show. We're going to go ahead and skip on to a game that is just as good for fantasy. It is the Patriots at the New York Jets. The New York Jets, obviously, Zach Wilson's not the greatest, but that defense is legit. It's at home. There's a little weather icon that shows rain on the Draftkings app. This could be a really gross game. Snyder, I don't know if you've looked. I haven't looked. What would you guess the over-under is on the Jets-Patriots?
I think it's right around 36, 35. And
that seems basically lower. Yeah, low. That's a lot. Yeah, so you can go ahead and talk about this, and I'll confirm it after the end.
Yeah, this is one of the highest probable weather games I think we need to watch out for this week. I think we're going to see winds 15 to 20 miles an hour in this game, and then like a 90% chance of this is definite rain showers during this game, 90% chance. So I think we're going to see an ugly game here. We got 2 bottom tier quarterbacks. So we got 2 good defenses going at it here. So I'll be looking at the defenses on both sides for this game mainly. I think you can play the Patriots and the Jets. The Jets are definitely going to be more popular than the New England defense there at 3,500 versus the 2,800. But I think it's going to be the Jets or the Bills are going to be the 2 cheap defenses that people go to this week. So I think that's fine if you want to play one of those guys. Really don't have much interest in anybody else from this game, though. I think this is going to be a slog game. I think it'll probably be – I wouldn't be surprised if this game ends like 6-3 or something.
100%. And big shout out to Jack Off. He comes in with the Brees's coaches don't want him on that piss-soaked field. That is true. I could definitely see Brees Hall being even more scaled back if it's really wet out there. You were right. 36 points on the Patriots game. Actually, I hit the wrong button there, but I think that the Jets defense would be something that, this is more of a betting angle. I'm not a complete bets guy. Still not legal in Kentucky until about 5 days in terms of on my phone. But if I were to make a bet, I would very much be inclined to go with the Jets money line here. I just think that defense is so good. I'm not a huge believer in Mac Jones at all. I actually believed in the Patriots last Sunday night game. But yeah, I think the Jets kind of take this game. I think the defense has to be the one to do it. And it's going to be interesting because defenses is something we haven't talked about yet. But the Jets defense at 2,800, I would assume is going to take a lot of the ownership. And I think, especially being on that Millie Roundtable show, I should probably pull up the ownerships now so I don't sound like a complete jackass. Let's go ahead and check the highest end defenses real quick. Right now, it is projected to be the Bills first and then the Jets. So it makes sense the Jets are a top 3 on defense. Are you mixing them in at all?
What's that? Oh, I was just looking at some college news. It looks like
Jets defense at all?
Yeah, I'm going to play some Jets defense for sure. I think they're going to be highly owned. If you're playing college fantasy, it looks like Jalen McMillan is not out for pregame warmups. It looks like I just seen that come across the screen. If you're playing the late night slate.
Yeah, the late night slate. I know that's being grinded into the Discord here. I haven't checked. Yep, and so did that Washington wide receiver too, Odenese. So yeah, that's some good news right there. If you're paying attention, obviously the Discord, you get every update as fast as possible. And speaking of updates, Kyron Williams being the guy, Cam Akers being determined that he'd be inactive coming into the slate. That was before the 1:00 games hit. A lot of people, especially in our Discord, global swap. Hey, get AJ Dillon out of there. Right? Get Joshua Kelly out of there. Get Kyron Williams in. And that led to a big payday for a guy like Kay Fallick, who obviously ended up shipping $332K. If you saw the lineup by now, you'd be like, damn, that's weird. He ran naked Gino. He talks about how he had to change 4 lines, put the news in the Discord, everything like that. Hey, good things happen to good people. Kay Fallick, I'm so glad he won 332K, whatever it was. But yeah, this is going to be interesting. Don't tell me that Marvin Harrison Jr. got injured. Oh, God. Well, Snyder, I bet Jackson Smith and Jigba Heisman last year, and I bet Marvin Harris. I'm going to stop betting Heisman, so this is bad news. I'll have to check that one out a little bit later. But let's go ahead and move on to the next game here. Obviously, not a ton to talk about the Jets, Patriots-wise, especially in that low of a total game. But let's go to the highest on defense, which I was actually shocked to see, but it makes a ton of sense at 2,900. The Buffalo Bills going against the Washington Commanders. Washington really got going that second half last game, and it kind of felt like, oh, wow, this team, despite having like an awful schedule down the entire rest of the season, could make some noise, could make games tough. And this is in Washington. This is going to be an interesting one because obviously weather in the Northeast looks to be a little bit bleak. I'm kind of curious to see how well Washington does in this one. I think this game is a true toss-up to me. Talk to me about it.
I actually think they see a little reality check here, Washington, kind of like the Colorado Buffaloes did today. Denver basically just gave them that game last week. I think we see the Bills come in here and give them a little medicine. Looking at the weather here to see if there was any weather to note here. Where is the Bills at? Right there. 46% chance of rain. No wind, so maybe a little wet in this game. Nothing I would nothing I would shy away from, though. I do like James Cook here, though. I've been playing him pretty much every week in MME. He's been in player pool each week. Last week he went off for 23 points, 123 yards rushing on 17 carries, averaging 7 yards per carry. I mean, he's definitely got that huge upside that like we saw in college. I'm really high on him coming into the year as well, from best ball to throughout the season. So I'm going to keep playing him in the player pool. 6,400, the price tag's up there now. So I definitely think we see him, probably under 5% owned, maybe 1 to 3% owned. So he's definitely a guy I'm going to have a sprinkle up in the player pool then. And from the Buffalo side, you can always go to Diggs there for sure. Gabe Davis had a decent game last week. I think we see both of these guys incorporated about the same again. 8,100 for Diggs. We're going to see Diggs at basically no ownership either because of Jefferson and then Jefferson and Tyreek. So, I mean, an Allen Diggs stack is a way to definitely differentiate yourself on this slate. So I really like that for large field tournaments like the Millie Maker. I think that combination comes in sub 5% owned. We're going to see Josh Allen criminally underpriced here too, 8,100. He's going to be probably 2 to 4% owned this week. I think I'll definitely like the Buffalo Bills here for large fields, and I would run it back with the Jahan Dotson. I really like him. I was on him big last year. I think he's fine here. Hasn't really done much yet this year, but I think he can pop off here. A lot of the people will be looking at Terry McLaurin more so, I think, on this side like they usually do. He found the end zone last week, 5 for 54 and a touchdown last week, which is fine there. But I really like the Buffalo stack here to kind of get different. And then Dalton Kincaid, too, for 3,400 for another cheap tight end. I think he's got way more upside than Durham Smith, like we just talked about. So I think he's a guy that could definitely double his score or something like that. And he'll be low, and too. Every Bills guy here is going to be probably around 5% or less, I think, for tomorrow's slate.
Yeah, I think Kincaid's a great shout. You're also looking at there, too, where you basically get a guy playing with Josh Allen who's playing a lot in the slot. He has a very high, route ran rate, right? Whatever the fuck that means. But basically means he runs a lot of routes. 6 targets last week, caught, 5 to 6. I really like his talent. I think he'll be an absolute force in the NFL for, who knows how long it takes him to become that. But you're getting a huge buy low opportunity on this guy. I know Dawson Knox was missing practice a little bit earlier in the week, but he's a full go. I was really excited if Dawson Knox were to miss 1 week. I think Alton Kincaid would immediately shoot up that board for me. But then all of a sudden, Logan Thomas, God, concussion again. That doesn't shock me. I'm glad he made it through 2 games this year, but sheesh, it feels like every year he's got a concussion, and it leads him to being out for multiple weeks. Cole Turner, he's a guy I was like a little bit high on in best ball. I wonder if he runs more of the routes. I think I got to check that routes ran rate, basically from Washington Commanders. That was in week 2 against the Broncos, right? If Turner ran more routes, That's another guy I would choose over Durham. You say Smith or Smite? I don't know how to pronounce it. I apologize if I'm pronouncing it wrong to anyone out there. I think, but yeah, if Cole Turner was the guy, I'm looking that up right now. If he was the guy who got more snaps and stuff, I'll definitely sell myself on him at 2,700 in a game that could potentially lead to them chasing. So yeah, I think I'll look that up here in a minute. Let's go ahead and move on to Carolina and Seattle. So Bryce Young has looked very inconsistent. The offensive line has not done him a ton of favors. I think you also look at it, Miles Sanders and, Chuba Hubbard have done okay. But Chuba Hubbard's production has done a lot of it in the second half, especially late in games during garbage time. And then all of a sudden, Thielen seems to be Bryce Young's favorite target. Then you look at the Seattle Seahawks side of the ball, right? Geno Smith, hey, good for him. Played ball last week. Took advantage of the Detroit Lions. We were kind of harsh on him a little bit. I was the same exact way. It's proved us a little bit wrong, right? Hopefully we can see that moving forward. But this isn't a game where, it makes you say, oh, I got to have a piece of this. But Tyler Lockett obviously getting into the box twice last week too. Are you going to have any interest in like Kenneth Walker, the Seattle guys, or even Carolina in general?
I think this is another game I'm going to look at maybe stacking up in the million maker. Kind of think we could see, Andy Dalton, 4,900, but there was a game last year when he played the Arizona Cardinals and put up like 33 points. I think he had another start last year. He put up like 25. I don't think that's in the high range of outcomes, but I think it's on the table for him. So maybe I play a little bit of him. If you want to play that lineup with Tyreek Hill and Justin Jefferson in there, this is the key to get there. Throw in the red rifle, let him spin. I think he's fine for a large field. I really like Jackson Smith and Jigba. I think he's about ready to turn the corner here going forward. His snap share rose last week from 30 snaps to 40 snaps. I think we see that take another hike up. His receptions went from 3 to 5. So I think we see Jackson Smith and Jigba kind of get more incorporated in this offense as the season goes. He's definitely got some huge run after the catch opportunities there. We got Metcalf questionable. I think Smith and Jigba could be a monster play this week at 4,300. Nobody's going to play him either. Checking out his ownership now. Yeah, I don't think, and he's going to be under 5% for sure. And I think I'll definitely look at Kenneth Walker here. The Panthers' rush defense is bad. I think Kenneth Walker could have a field day here. 6,200. He's in consideration for all formats for me tomorrow. I think he's going to be maybe approach 15%, but I think he'll probably be somewhere in that 12 to 14% ownership range. 17 carries last week, found the end zone twice. I think we could see him go for 100 plus and a touchdown here. And then Miles Sanders is the guy I've had in the pool so far. I think he's upside large field GPP guy if you want to go there. But if I was going to pair up the red rifle, it would probably be with Adam Thielen, who I think could be a popular cheap play. 9 targets last week, caught 7 of them, 54 yards and a touchdown, put up 20 points. I think he's a guy that Dalton will be looking at for those easier pass completions and such. So I think this is kind of an interesting game. I know it's got a low total of 42, but I think we could find some options here. And Hayden Hurst at 3,800, maybe the red rifle, I'll kind of lean on him as well.
Yeah, that's a good point. I completely forgot that Bryce Young is not going to start this game. It's actually going to be Cincinnati Bengals legend Andy Dalton. Andy Dalton probably brings in a little bit more stability. Maybe get the ball out of his hands a little bit quicker than Bryce Young, able to process it a little bit faster. I think this benefits the Carolina Panthers in general. But yeah, you're right. This could be the grossest path to fit Tyreek Hill and Justin Jefferson together. I haven't fiddled with it in Saber yet, but I do want to fiddle with it here in a minute. Basically, just see how high I got to project him to get him in there to where it's viable, right? I don't want to completely, project him like 35 or whatever, but I do want to project him over the field as projecting them at all. And maybe if that leads to me to some terrible builds with, Thielen at 2.9K, who I don't know. I don't know if I can trust this Snyder. That just feels gross to click on. But the Seattle Seahawks defense is nothing special. So I think I could do it. I think I would stomach it, especially in the large tournament, especially if it's not just one lineup. I definitely think I'll be able to do that a little bit more easier than I anticipated. And I think if you're looking at the defenses too, 3,200 for the Seahawks, 2,600 for the Panthers. It feels like this week those defenses are a little bit better than last week. I've landed on the Falcons a lot last time out, and despite them winning, they were absolutely atrocious for fantasy. And this week, you get the Bills, Jets, and Commanders commanding above, double digits in ownership, right? How can we get a little bit different? Well, Seahawks are about half the ownership of the Commanders, 5%. Backup quarterback coming in, even if it's an upgrade over Bryce Young, it's still a backup. So at home, 12th man, could definitely see that being the case.
Have you seen
Jigba is one of the lowest of any wide receiver in the NFL right now. So, it just feels like a little bit of a weird spot, but weird spot shouldn't stop anyone. A Naked Gino just won KFI like 332K last week. Maybe I should get on that train. If I play Naked Gino, I get 332K. I don't think I'll do that.
Have you seen what the Seahawks defense has done through the 2 games?
I actually have not. Has it been impressive?
They've given up 30 points both games to the Rams and Lions, and have given up 50-plus points to the receiving position in both games and 25-plus points to the running back position in both games.
All right, so you're selling me on Adam Thielen and Miles Sanders just a bit now.
I think there's a chance.
Now you're talking my language. Even though they only have, 18 points projected for him? Under 6K for Miles Sanders. Oh, my God. I didn't even look at this yet, the value. Miles Sanders is popping on the value a little bit here, especially at the running back position. So, yeah, I can be sold on that. I can be sold on that, Snyder. Let's go ahead and move on to the next game here. We'll save the best for last, and this one will go with the Dallas Cowboys at the Arizona Cardinals. I really like Tony Pollard this week at 8K. But we saw what happens when the Cowboys get far ahead. We saw it against the Giants and stuff. They kind of slow down the game. They don't really throw the ball too often. And even like last week and stuff, it felt like even though Jake Ferguson got there, it was just a CD Lamb show, and that was basically it. Are we targeting many pieces from the Dallas Cowboys? Are you going to have more than one in any lineup? Are you going to go Dak stacks? And also talk about the 4.4K Dallas Cowboys defense.
Yeah, I think in tournaments, I'll definitely have some Pollard and Dallas defense stacks. I know Dallas just lost a key member of their secondary, but I think Micah Parsons is definitely going to make life rough for these Cardinals this week, like he does for every quarterback that he faces. I really like Pollard. I was high on him coming in. I had Pollard in my preseason rankings projected as a top 3 running back this year, so I'm going to continue to ride Pollard. I know he didn't find the end zone last week, but he did twice week 1. 7 catches last week. I love the usage of Pollard here. I think they're going to keep using him in the same facet here. 12.5-point favorites. Definitely am high on Pollard. I don't think I'm going to play the passing game much here, but you could go to a couple of these guys like Michael Gallup at 3.7 if you're looking for a cheapie. Brandon Cooks at 5.2. I think Cooks has some decent upside. And then CD Lamb at 7,700. He'll be lower owned. I definitely think he's fine. I mean, he's got just as good of upside as those other guys. I mean, last game he had over 11 catches and scored almost 30 points. So, that's on the table for him. But I don't think I'll be having too much of him. I'm going to concentrate on Tony Pollard mainly in this game. And then the Cardinals are going to be a cross-off for me here.
Yeah, I'm with you. I think especially with Trayvon Diggs going out for the Cowboys, does hurt them a little bit, but I don't think it hurts them to the point where, you get interested in the Cardinals at all. Even though that James Conner was a very good running back last week for fantasy purposes, it does make, maybe the slight temptation. I will have interest in Jake Ferguson again, just because Arizona is notoriously bad against defending the tight end position. And they have been for quite a long time, not this season just yet, but I think that Ferguson could be a dark horse candidate to get in the box twice, and I'll definitely have a couple builds with him. Obviously, if you guys have watched the first 2 shows, I'm very high on him in best ball. So I'll definitely keep riding that train, especially when it's a mid 3Ks, low 3K range, which he currently is. The Dallas defense is a conundrum to me. Like, I don't think you play them, but would I be pissed off if I saw him house a touchdown because Joshua Dobbs turned it over? Yeah, I'd be pissed off, but would I be surprised? No, not really. That's where that double-edged sword comes in. But, logic says don't spend 4.4K on a defense when literally they all have the same upside. And the Commanders' defense at 2.4K going against Josh Allen's arm, it could be a little bit more tempting and, produce the same results, but you get a way better wide receiver in the process. So Let's move on to the last game of the day. And this one I have a very strong opinion on. And it has to stem with the fact that Justin Fields calling out the coaches and whatever facet that was, whether it was a press conference or just a locker room thing, incredibly kind of defiant on the fact that he's not the one at fault for his bad play. If there's a spot for him to get right, a spot for the late game stack to just absolutely nuke, it's Justin Fields going off for 50 and Travis Kelce and Mahomes chasing it. Do you think that's in the cards here, or do you think Justin Fields is just done at this point?
I don't think I can get there this week. I think the Chiefs defense is actually good this year. They held Lawrence and the Jaguars in check last week. I think they're going to be able to hold Fields in check here. I think that the Chiefs are going to roll here. I expect them to probably win this game by 3 times. I mean, you're gonna get Fields in garbage time though in that second half. So I mean, would I be surprised, like you said about the Dallas defense? Would I be surprised if I see Fields rip off a 70-yard touchdown run in like the fourth quarter? No, but I don't think I'm gonna get there at 7,100. I think I'd rather go elsewhere. I probably won't even get the Mahomes at 8,300. I'll just play some pieces from this game. I think Kelce is in a great spot here, 7.2K. You kind of need to take Kelce at that price tag and kind of compare him to some other flex plays like receivers or running backs in that same price range. I think Kelce has just as big of upside as those guys. Last week he was kind of on a pitch count there, only played 43 of 67 snaps, but they were looking at him about quite often when he was out there. 9 targets on those 43 snaps. I think we see a bigger game from him this week. I'll be overweight on him in tournaments. Checking his ownership here. Yeah, I don't think he'll be under 20% for sure. So I think that's pretty easy to get overweight on him. I do kind of like Isaiah Pacheco this week at 5,400, maybe even some Jerick McKinnon here. I think that the Chiefs are going to be well ahead heading into the second half. Maybe we see those guys kind of have some good mop-up time in the second half. And Pacheco could get in the box 1 or 2 times this game and kind of break the slate almost at under 10% owned. 12 carries last week. I think we could see him do well in this spot.
Yeah, it's a good point. And Pacheco looks like he's going to play from Schefter. Hamstring is the issue. The only worry about them is that I could definitely see if they get up, Clyde Edwards-Helaire just becomes the guy that Reed relies on. Because it was like that last year. It was the reverse, though. Clyde Edwards-Helaire played a lot of the first half, and once the Chiefs got up, Pacheco would run like 11 times in the fourth quarter. So that could definitely be something that concerns me with the running game on the Chiefs side. And I do want to make this point because I'm going to do it. And I know it's insane. I know we all saw the same video where Justin Fields went through his progressions. 4 guys were wide open. One of them's in the end zone. And he takes a sack, right? I think this is the put up or shut up week for Justin Fields. And I'm going to want to buy in early. We all saw the potential last year. We all saw the 70-yard scampers. All of a sudden, he's got 40 fantasy points. We're pissed off at the world. You ran him naked. Some dude ran him naked. Justin Fields tag, wins $1 million, right? I think that's in the cards, Snyder. I think if there was a game where Justin Fields says, fuck you, I'm balling out. I mean, is it at the Chiefs? He says, screw this. He made the coaching comment. Just let me be me. I feel like that vibe could be had. And I think Travis Kelce is the perfect run back for that. I think that you could definitely do just a mini game stack where you have a lot. It's not mini in the sense of you're not pairing Mahomes with Kelce. It's just a straight stack. It's mini game stack because you only have 2 players from one game, but they're the 2 best players on each team for fantasy. And Kelce being paired with Fields, in my opinion, if you're expecting a high scoring game, could be the move. And definitely intrigued by that. That'd be my tournament stance for, the Millie Maker here is I'm probably running a few Fields and Kelce teams specifically. I don't know if they'll be completely naked. I don't really love the idea of double tight end on this slate because I think we have a lot of cheap wide receivers and even cheap running backs if Kendra Miller would be the one to get the workload. And Jack off, hey, Jack off, great to have you, man. Roshan Johnson as well looks to be taking over that lead back role. There's another guy who could be pretty cheap, at the running back position, right? He's 4,700. He's involved in the passing game a lot. Texas was very high of him. Not the Texas Longhorns in college football. 8 catches in 2 games is definitely not the worst thing in the world to target. You have Kmet. I don't know if I'd go to DJ Moore with a field stack, but this game definitely has my attention. I think I'll be a little overweight on Fields and then running it back with Kelsey quite a bit. Snyder, I won't let you go away without giving me your play of the day. So we'll do our plays of the day here in a second. And overall, we'll go ahead and give the people a little bonus. We didn't have Drew on today. So let's go through our favorite play at each position. So that way they all have, a little bit of something. Quarterback position, who is your favorite play of the slate?
I'm going to go for a GPP play because I think my favorite play is going to be a popular one. But for the Million Maker, I really like Josh Allen at quarterback.
I like it. Obviously, upside at, low ownership is always the name of the game. I talked about Justin Fields. He wasn't going to be my play of the day, but we're talking the Million Maker. I'll definitely have some Justin Fields teams, so they'll be my flag plant of the quarterbacks here for low owned tournament purposes. Running back, I won't be as unique. I'll go first this time, as I know we won't have the same one. The running back is Joshua Kelly for me at 5.4K. I think that the Chargers, ran him way more than I expected. Though I ended up being right on the fade, it wasn't for the right reasons, which we still take those. But I think Kelly, with the fact that he had a ton of the work last week going against a defense that just got gouged by DeAndre Swift, Joshua Kelly, my running back play of the day, or play of the slate. Snyder, what's yours?
I'm going to go with Bijan Robinson, 7.8K. I think we see him around 10% owned. I think he's got the upside to kind of break the slate here and outscore potentially Jefferson and Tyreek Hill potentially.
I like it. Let's move on to wide receiver. You had some names earlier. Let's go ahead into, who's your favorite wide receiver on the slate and tell us a little bit about why.
I'm going to go right back to that Jaguars-Houston game. I think we could see some back and forth points there. I'm going to go to Calvin Ridley again. I've been on him both weeks, 7.2K this week. I think he's going to come in maybe pushing 15% or so, but I think Calvin Ridley is a great upside price tag at 7.2K. He's a guy that it wouldn't surprise me if he outscored, Jefferson or Hill too and put up a 35 spot here versus porous Texans defense.
I like it. I'm going to go a route that I mentioned earlier. I think wide receiver, Elijah Moore. 4,700 Tennessee Titans pass funnel. Deshaun Watson looked for more 9 times last game. I think that Elijah Moore has a lot of talent, and this is the spot to see it. And if we don't see it here, oh well. He's 4,700. He fits well with the build that I'm making right now. It is Sands Field though. If I need the salary though, I think I'm going to be landing on a lot of Elijah Moore. Tight end. We talked about some values. We talked about some mid range. We talked about Kelsey even a little bit. I think for me, I like Sam Laporta. I like that game a lot. And I know that I could have taken yours there because you might have done a run back with Bijan Robinson, but Laporta has done really well in the first 2 games. He looks beyond his years. This is just a good spot, in a dome game where if we did get the pace up spot, basically, if the Atlanta Falcons end up rushing this game a little bit more, they get behind early, could lead to a lot of snaps, and Laporta could be the guy. And I think stacking him up with Bijan is definitely something I'll be doing, like you said earlier, with your Bijan play of the slate.
Yeah, I'm going to go with I'm going to correlate here with my quarterback. I'm going to go with Dalton Kincaid under 10%. I think he's a good pivot down here that a lot of people are going to be looking at some of those other guys we mentioned this week, Smith, and I think Ertz is going to be popular too, then Kelsey, and then maybe Evan Ingram will even see some ownership. I think Dalton Kincaid kind of gets lost in the shuffle there. I like him for tournaments.
Awesome. And, just for, I guess we got to do it for the people. Everyone asks, what defense should I play? I usually play whoever fits, but Snyder, you got a favorite defense this week?
I'm going to go, let's go with, I'm just gonna go with someone that I'll probably play a lot of. I think I'm gonna go with the Jets at home against Mac Jones.
Well, we end the show in unison because I was clicking the Jets as you spoke. Jets 2,800 at home against Mac Jones in bad weather. I mean, gosh, Bill Belichick is a genius, but I don't know if he can scheme against this Jets defense. As long as Zach Wilson doesn't turn it over and force us on short fields and stuff, Jets defense should be the move. Yeah, this should be a fun slate. I think there's a lot of routes that you can go as someone who's going to be trying to jam in as much Hill and Jefferson in the same lineup as possible. there's a lot of value to make that happen. And I'm looking at that right now. It feels different than last week. Anything that you want to part words with, and take us out of here? I'll end the show once you do.
Well, I don't think so. I think we covered everything pretty well. Make sure to tune in to the Sunday morning shows. We're going to have a lot of content there. Everything will be up on site and everything. It was fun breaking this down with you. Hopefully we can be in the winner's circle Sunday night. We can be celebrating some Millie wins or something.
That would be the dream. If I do win $1 million, I'll definitely buy a lot of booze, and we'll definitely have to get together for a golf tournament at some point. Everyone, good luck. If we don't win the Millie, if it's not me, if it's not Snyder, if it's not Drew in spirit, I hope that you guys are the ones that win, and goodbye.